The book I'm showing you is the book of Musnad Abu Dawood al-Tayalisi. Abu Dawood al-Tayalisi is different than Abu Dawood al-Sajistani. Abu Dawood al-Sajistani is later than Bukhari, and this person, al-Tayalisi, he precedes Bukhari. Bukhari passed away at year 255. This person died at year 204 from the migration of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Volume number 3, published by Dar al-Hajr at the year 1999, 1420, page number 425, Hadith Zayd ibn Aslam and Omar, and Ibn Omar. Zayd ibn Aslam narrates from Omar ibn al-Khattab. Hadith number 2025. حدثنا أبو داود قال حدثنا خارجة بن مصعب عن زيد بن أسلم عن ابن عمر قال سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يقول. Ibn Umar said that I heard the Nabi صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم say, من مات بغير إمام, any person who dies without an imam, any person who dies without an imam, مات ميتة جاهلية, he shall die a pagan death. A pagan death. Jahiliyyah, I mentioned to you yesterday, that's a term that refers to the time and era that Islam had not arisen yet. The pre-Islamic era, when the Arabs were indeed in very dark ages and dark beliefs and very dark and ignorant practices. That era has been mentioned in ahadith and the parlance of Muslims as the epoch of Jahiliyyah, the time of Jahiliyyah. Pagan is not a good word, it's not very accurate, but I do not find any other term in English that would render it properly. This is the closest that I can find in English. And then he says, وَمَنْ نَزَعَ يَدًا مِنْ طَاعَةٍ, whichever person pulls away his hand from obedience, obviously obedience to the Imam, obedience to the guide that he is supposed to follow. If he doesn't have an Imam, that guide, he shall die a pagan death. So any person who pulls out his hand, in other words, he abstains, he does not keep this practice. Any person who abstains or pulls out his hand from obedience, not any obedience, obedience of the Imam that was mentioned in the first segment of the hadith. جاء يوم القيامة لا حجة له. He comes on the day of judgment, whereas he does not have any argument, any explanation, any justification. So he would come on the day of judgment before Allah to answer for his deeds, and he will not have any defense. Any person who abstains from the authority of the guide of the Imam. What is this is hadith number 2025, and you see here the footnote number 5. Footnote number 5, it says hadithun sahih. This hadith is sahih. One of the hadith of Ibn Omar is quite famous, and Ibn Omar has mentioned this time and again that if one dies without an Imam, he shall die he shall die as a pagan death, as a jahili death. And inshallah tabarak wa ta'ala, we will have a detailed discussion about Ibn Omar, Abdullah ibn Omar, Abdullah, the son of Omar, the son of Al-Khattab. Why he would transmit this hadith? He had a political reason. He himself had an ambition for the different parties that he used to support. He used to transmit this hadith, and inshallah tabarak wa ta'ala, we'll discuss that in the future. Nonetheless, the hadith is sahih according to us. Our Imams alayhim as-salatu wasalam have narrated this hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and according to the Umaris, because they have narrated through various chains of narration from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Obviously, there is a disagreement that who is this Imam? Who is this Imam, this figure, this central figure, that if you do not know him, that you do not submit to his authority, you shall die a pagan death. They may say it's Quran, it's Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it's the Imam of the Masjid, it's the ruler. They may argue all of that. Nonetheless, inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala, when we will come to the other phase of this discussion, the phase of scrutinizing the meaning of the hadith, inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala, I will show to you that these suggestions are very ludicrous and very, very absurd. This is the book of Hilyatul Awliya wa Tabaqatul Asfiya by Hafiz Abu Nu'aym al-Isbahani. Hafiz Abu Nu'aym al-Isbahani lived towards the end of the 4th century and the beginnings of the 5th century after the migration of our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he is a very, very important and impressive figure in the hadith of the opposing congregation. And at the time, towards the end of his life, he was the grandest, the most prominent scholar of hadith at his time, at his era. And this book, Kitab al-Hilyatul Awliya, and many other of his authorships are quite impressive and respected very profoundly by the Omari scholars. Volume number 3, published by Dar al-Kutub al-Ilmiya at the year of 1409, 1988 in Beirut, Lebanon. Page number 234. Let me zoom in. Here we go. He mentions his chain of narration, very similar to the chain of narration. Actually, the same chain of narration from Abu Dawud al-Tiyalisi that I just read to you. From Kharija ibn Mus'ab and Zayd ibn Aslam and Ibn Omar. Qala Ibn Omar said, Sami'tu, I heard, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam yaqul, I heard him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say, Man mata, whoever dies without an imam, بغير imamin, faqad mata, indeed he has passed away, mitatan jahiliya, in a death that is a pagan death. ومن نزع يده من طاعة جاء يوم القيامة لا حجة له. And whoever person he abstains from obedience, he will come on the day of judgment while he doesn't have any explanation, any defense, any justification. Then he continues and says, هذا حديث صحيح ثابت. This hadith is sahih and solid and without any doubt. This hadith is from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now this person, Hafiz Abu Nu'aym, who testifies to the validity and authenticity and reliability of this hadith, as I mentioned to you, at his time, he was the biggest scholar of hadith in Baghdad, which was the capital of the Islamic world, which was the center of learning, which was the center of all muhaddithin who used to come there to study and collect hadith and write books of hadith. This is a very important testimony. Let me show to you the importance of Hafiz Abu Nu'aym al-Isbahani. This book is Tabaqat al-Shafi'iyyat al-Kubra. Tabaqat al-Shafi'iyyat al-Kubra, a book of encyclopedia of biographies of various scholars who belong to the Shafi'i madhab, and some of them may not be even Shafi'i. And a very important book of biographies of narrators and scholars, written by Abdullah ibn Ali ibn Abdul Kafi as-Subki. Volume number 4, published by Dar al-Kutub al-Arabiya. Here we go, page number 18. Here we find biography number 253, biography of Abu Nu'aym al-Isbahani. His name is Ahmad ibn Abdullah. He is Imamuhum al-Jalil, a very respectable Imam. Al-Hafiz, he's Hafiz. Al-Jami' bayn al-Fiqh wa al-Tasawwuf. He was Sufi as well as a person who knew fiqh, who was faqih. وَالنِّهَايَةُ فِي الْحِفْظِ وَالضَّبْطِ. He reached the utmost pinnacle of hifz, of understanding hadith and narration of hadith. Then he talks about him. وَهُوَ أَحَدُ الْأَعْلَامِ الَّذِينَ جَمَعَ اللَّهُ لَهُمْ بَيْنَ الْعُلُوِّ فِي الرِّوَايَةِ وَالنِّهَايَةِ فِي الدِّرَايَةِ. He is one of those famous and very towering figures that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him this ability that he had, and this opportunity, very rare opportunity, who had very few intermediaries between him and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and his chains of narration. So there is a very important characteristic that scholars of hadith look for, and that is the brevity of chain of narration. So if a chain of narration is brief, there are not too many intermediaries, there are not too many people in the chain of narration, this hadith is more solid, and such a hadith is called Ali. Ali sanad. Such hadith has a very, Ali means high, so Ali, high chain of narration. High chain of narration or sublime chain of narration simply means that it's that the people who are intermediaries in the hadith, there are very few. So if, for instance, if Abu Nu'aym narrates from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam a hadith because he met someone who was very old. He met someone very old, somebody, Mr. X, who met somebody very old, who met somebody very old, and so on. So and then this goes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this chain of narration would be very short. While same hadith, another person may narrate, but he met his teacher. Well, his teacher was not very old, and he met his teacher who was not very old, and he met his teacher who is very old. So although these two, both of them may live, let's say, at 400 Hijri, this hadith may have 10 chains of people, intermediaries, and this hadith may have 6, for instance, or 7. So such a characteristic is called ulu sanad, and ulu scholars of hadith in that time, in that period, always appreciated and desired to have hadith that have fewer intermediaries between them and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they would travel far and distant lands in order to meet somebody who had these ahadith from his teacher, which were of fewer intermediaries between them and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. At his time, Hafiz Abu Nu'aym al-Isbahani, at his time, he was the person who had the fewest intermediaries between him, because he started learning at an early age, and he traveled to different lands, and he met different scholars, and he collected these ahadith with very few intermediaries, very few narrators, and various generations between him and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, one thing you have to remember, that now we narrate hadith from books. Now I read Bukhari, Tirmidhi, Sunan Abu Dawud, and Nisai. And now I'm talking about the Omari realm, not the Shia realm, because the method of transmission of hadith in Shia is very different, is fundamentally different from Omaris, and to even compare them is very erroneous. So they have the difficulties and the challenges that they have in hadith. We do not have those challenges and those impediments in the Shia hadith. So at that time, now Omaris, the way they narrate hadith, for many centuries now, they narrate from books. But at that time, in earlier ages, the narration of hadith was not from books. It was from going to teachers and hearing them recite the hadith and writing it down and getting permission from such a person, getting ijazah, permission, to further go ahead and transmit this hadith to other people. So that was the method of collecting hadith. وَرَحَلَ إِلَيْهِ الْحُفَّاظُ مِنَ الْأَقْطَارِ. This Hafiz Abu Nu'aym al-Isbahani was such a person that Huffaz, وَرَحَلَ إِلَيْهِ الْحُفَّاظ, other scholars of hadith would travel from distant lands to him in order to take hadith from him. And let me go to page number 21. Abu Bakr al-Khatib al-Baghdadi. He is a very, very famous scholar of hadith and scholar of cognition of the identity of the various narrators of hadith. In his book, Tarikh Baghdad, Tarikh Madinat al-Salam, Baghdad's name is City of Peace, Madinat al-Salam. As you would know, Baghdad's other name is Madinat al-Salam. Not much peace for many centuries. But anyways, its name is Madinat al-Salam. It's a very voluminous work and very detailed work of the identity of various narrators. And he is a very important person, Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi. Khatib al-Baghdadi says about حافظ أبو نعيم لم أرى أحدا أطلق عليه اسم الحفظ غير رجلين أبو نعيم الإسبهاني وأبو حازم العبدوي الأعرج. There are only two people in my time that I consider them worthy of the title of Hafiz. One of them is Hafiz Abu Nu'aym. So that portrays to you, explains to you the importance and the very lofty position that Abu Nu'aym al-Isbahani enjoys amongst his peers and amongst the Umari scholars. And Ahmad ibn Murdawi says, كان أبو نعيم في وقته مرحونا العلي. Hafiz Abu Nu'aym at his time and age was the aim and objective of scholars to travel and to journey to him in order to hear him say ahadith and record those ahadith and get permission from him to further transmit those ahadith. ولم يكن في أفق من الآفاق أسند ولا أحفظ منه. And in all horizons, in all Islamic lands, there was not a person who was more knowledgeable and who had more mastery of the asanid, of chains of narration. كان حفاظ الدنيا قد اجتمعوا عنده. All famous scholars of hadith of his time were his students. So this Hafiz Abu Nu'aym, with such a prominent position and such an impressive personality, he testifies that this hadith is sahih and thabit, and not only sahih, but proven, undeniable. And then Hamza ibn al-Habbas al-Alawi says, كان أصحاب الحديث يقولون بقي أبو نعيم 14 سنة بلا نظير لا يوجد شرقا ولا غربا أعلى إسنادا منه ولا أحفظ منه. Hamza ibn Abbas al-Alawi says that scholars of hadith used to say that Hafiz Abu Nu'aym al-Isbahani remained for 14 years. For 14 years, he was the most knowledgeable person in all lands, from the east to the west of Islamic lands. He was the most prominent scholar of hadith. He was the most knowledgeable scholar of hadith. There was no other person who had better chains of narration and better mastery and better erudition of these chains of narration than him. So, and this person testifies that this hadith is sahih. Let me show you another book, Kitab al-Sunnah by Abu Bakr Ahmad ibn Amr ibn Abi Asim. This book of hadith, this person, the author of this book, he passed away year 287, and he's also almost one of the peers of Bukhari. Bukhari passed away 255. He is the peers of, he was at the same time, at the same era, of the same generation as Abu Dawud al-Sajistani, as Nisa'i, as Tirmidhi, as those people. So, of a person who lived at the golden age of chronicling and registering ahadith. This book has been verified, and its ahadith have been researched by who? By Dr. Basim ibn Faisal al-Jawabira, and he is a professor of hadith and Usul al-Din College of Muhammad ibn Saud University in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Published by Dar al-Sumayyi, volume number 1. Let's go. This book was published in 1998 in Saudi Arabia. Page number 713, hadith number 1091. He narrates, حدثنا الفضيل بن سهل حدثنا يحيى بن آدم حدثنا أبو بكر بن عياش عن عاصم عن أبي صالح حديثين. This chain of narration from Fudayl ibn Sahl to Abu Salih, they have narrated, this chain of narration divides and goes into a fork, and they narrates from two people, from Abu Huraira and also from Muawiyah. That Abu Huraira and Muawiyah, both of them have said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said, Man mata wa laysa alayhi imamun mata mitatan jahiliyyah. Any person who dies and he doesn't have an imam, he shall die a death of jahiliyyah, a death of pre-Islamic era. Footnote number 2, this professor of hadith, who is a student of Shaykh Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani, he says, Isnaduhu Hasan. This hadith is a Hasan hadith by itself. By examining this hadith on its own merit, without considering further evidence, this hadith is Hassan. And I will, inshallah, tabaraka wa ta'ala, show to you that hadith al-Hassan is a sahih hadith. Hadith al-Hassan is one of the subcategories of al-hadith al-sahih, and al-hadith al-Hassan is hujjah, is a proof, reliable proof that proves any matter that it pertains to, any matter that it implies. This is the same book, Kitab al-Sunnah. This time the ahadith have been verified by Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani. And of course, Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani, those of you who follow the discussions of hadith would know that Wahhabis and Salafis have great admiration and respect with regard to Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani. He passed away about 30 years ago, and he lived in Syria and Damascus, and he originally was from Albania. That's why he says Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani. And he spent a good portion of his life reading and researching and investigating the ahadith and the Umari order of chains of transmission of hadith. Published by Al-Maktab al-Islami, year 1980. Let's go, page number 503, hadith number 1057. Here we go, 1057. Same hadith that I just read to you. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله من مات وليس عليه إمام مات ميتة جاهلية. قال إسناده حسن. He said that this isnad is also Hassan. Isnad is Hassan. So it's very important now that I show to you that al-hadith al-Hassan is a category of hadith al-Sahih, or at least, or at minimum, it is equal to al-hadith al-Sahih in terms of being hujjah, in terms of being solid proof, in terms of its ability and its efficiency to prove whatever matter that it implies and it indicates and it contains. This book is توضيح الأفكار أفكار لمعاني تنقيح الأنظار لمحمد بن إسماعيل الأمير الحسن الحسني الصنعاني, one of the very famous scholars of hadith, published by Al-Maktaba As-Salafiyya in Medina Al-Munawwara. He, on page 116, this person, the author of this book, Al-Amir Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Amir al-San'ani, he is a scholar of hadith, and he is greatly respected by the Salafi order. In this page 116, he narrates from Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, says, إن الحسن لذاته في الاحتجاج به مثل الصحيح اتفاقا. The hadith الصحيح, my apologies, the hadith of Hassan, as far as its ability to being hujjah is concerned, as far as the quality of being hujjah, you understand what's hujjah. Hujjah means valid proof, firm proof. Anything that proves something clearly, demonstrates something without a doubt, makes it abundantly clear and evident, that is hujjah. For the hadith al-Hasan, as far as its capacity of being hujjah is concerned, it is just like as al-hadith al-sahih. There is no difference between them. Al-Hasana li-zateh fil-ihtijaj bihi mithlu al-sahih. Al-hadith al-Hasan, in terms of being hujjah, is like al-hadith al-sahih. Ittifaqan. And this is a matter of consensus. This is not an opinion. This is a matter of consensus and agreement, wide agreement by all scholars. And let me show you some more further evidence in this regard. This is a book of An-Nukat ala Kitab Ibn Salah lil-Hafiz Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. Of course, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani is greatly admired and respected for his erudition and the fine art of hadith and the intricacies of hadith, and a very, very important figure and a very key figure. And this is one of his books that he has written on the sciences of hadith. Volume number 1, published in Al-Madina Al-Munawwara in Saudi Arabia in year 1984. Here we go, page number 401. إن المصنف وغير واحد إن المصنف وغير واحد نقلوا الاتفاق Ibn Salah, who is Abdul Rahman ibn Uthman al-Shahrazuri, he was a very, very important figure in Hadith and in the sciences of Hadith. He has narrated, he has stated, and other scholars have also stated. What have they stated? إن الحديث الحسن يحتج به كما يحتج بالصحيح. الحديث الحسن is hujjah just like hadith al-sahih. In terms of being hujjah, there is no difference between al-hadith al-hasan and al-hadith al-sahih. Let me show you one more book by Hafiz ibn Hajar, نزهة النظر في توضيح نخبة الفكر في مصطلح أهل الأثر, written by Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, published year 1422-2001. الحسن لذاته الحديث الحسن وهذا القسم من الحسن مشارك للصحيح في الاحتجاج به. الحديث الحسن is equal to sahih as far as ability to being hujjah is concerned. Let's move on. This is the book of Siyar A'lam al-Nubala, written by Muhammad ibn Ahmad ibn Uthman al-Dhahabi, volume number 7, published by Risala Foundation at the year 1996, page number 338, the biography of Muhammad ibn Talha, who is one of the narrators in Bukhari, in Muslim, and many other books of Hadith. He talks about Muhammad ibn Talha and says, وَبِهَذَا يَظْهَرُ لَكَ إِنَّ الْحَسَنَ قِسْمٌ دَاخِلٌ فِي الصَّحِيحِ. He says because Hadith al-Hasan, al-Hadith al-Hasan is it's valid to use it as a hujjah, and it proves whatever it indicates. Therefore, this shows that al-Hadith al-Hasan is one of the kinds, one of the subcategories of al-Hadith al-Sahih. Alhamdulillah, since I explained this to you now, those scholars who have said this hadith is Hasan also, even according to them, their assertion is not detrimental to our position. Even if we agree to them that this hadith is Hasan, and we disregard all the other assertions of grand scholars of hadith that this hadith is sahih, even if we submit and put aside any dispute and disregard, we say, okay, it's Hasan, then still al-hadith al-Hasan is still hujjah, and it proves whatever meaning it implies. Let's go to another book. Al-Ihsan fi Taqrib Sahih ibn Hibban. This is the book of Sahih ibn Hibban. And like Bukhari and Muslim, Ibn Hibban has guaranteed clearly and evidently and without any ambiguity in the introduction of his book that he is compiling only Sahih Hadith. Only those Hadith which are valid, which are authentic, which are Sahih. And he mentioned this in great detail in his book. Published by Muassasatul Risala, volume number 1, year 1988 in Beirut. And then page 151 here. If you want to see it later, you may refer. And he mentions that why and how he guarantees that all the ahadith in his book is sahih. And you may see this later on your own. This is Sahih, same book, Sahih ibn Hibban, volume number 10, published by Risala Foundation, year 1991, page number 434, hadith number 4573. He mentions this sanad here and then on the authority of Muawiyah. قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم من مات وليس له إمام مات ميتة جاهلية. Any person who dies and he does not have an imam, he shall die a pagan jahili death. So, obviously, the book is Sahih ibn Hibban, and Ibn Hibban himself is very respected, and he's not Shia by any stretch of the imagination. He certifies that all the ahadith in his book are Sahih, therefore, this hadith is Sahih according to him.